I pressed recording now. So, welcome to the stream, guys. Today I want to talk about the psychological aspect of trading. Because I think this is one aspect that is not really talked about that much, to be honest. So yeah, I want to talk about it a little bit, and obviously have a look at the charts as well. Ah, yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I'm kind of conflicted here, to be honest. I think this is a really nice wick to like this wick on Ethereum should lead for ETH to go towards like 2500 again, you know. I think at least this is how it should go, but it's still kind of under resistance. So ideally I want to wait for price action kind of accept back into this range, you know. But as long as it holds this 1 hour Woodsbot level, I think it's really good and potentially leads towards more upside. All right, so let's start with the psychological aspect. I've prepared some questions to get the flow going. Let me know if you guys can see this. Can you see the questions, Talisman? Yes, okay. Where's everybody today? Usually there's more people, but I guess it's Sunday. People want to maybe party a bit. Something kind of that, yeah. Well, I don't mind just streaming to 2 or 1 person. Anyways, so what I wanted to talk about is I think so. I wrote some questions down because I believe these are some of the questions that you need to ask yourself in order to become a successful trader. I think most people do not really go in depth with their selves when it comes to their relationship with money. And I think your relationship with money is one of the most important things in trading because it helps you understand on how you act certain ways whenever you take a trade, right? So whenever you lose money or whenever you enter a trade or you make a mistake in trading, it usually comes down to your relationship with your money in your childhood. Now, I can give you guys an example. For example, in my childhood, my family didn't have a lot of money. We had enough money for food. We had enough money to have a roof over our head, but oftentimes this was not even the case as well, you know. There was always some risk that I was going to go homeless. This was a real threat in my childhood, and this basically formed my relationship of money, you know, because for me now as an adult, money is something I'm really scared of losing because of my childhood, you know. I didn't have a lot of money growing up, so naturally speaking, my relationship with money is that I'm scared to lose money, and this makes it difficult to trade sometimes because, you know, I might be too scared to enter a trade because, you know, if the market is hot, running hot, for example, like we have seen the past couple of days, for me it's hard to you know, be more aggressive. Even though I should be more aggressive with my trading, it's hard for me to be more aggressive because I fear of losing money, you know. I have this fear. And this comes up because of my childhood. Now, people need to ask themselves, what is my real relationship with my money? You know, do I had enough money for food? Do I had to worry about money at all? And I've noticed that most people who had enough money in their childhood are oftentimes the better traders, because they lack that inherent fear of losing money, you know. But sometimes it can go in the other way as well, you know. For example, if you've had a childhood and you grew up with lots of money, or let's say enough money to cover everything, you might not realize the value of money, you know. If you've never had to worry about this kind of stuff, and you always had the newest iPhone, etc., right? You might have never had to worry about money. So this can lead to you acting pretty risk on, right, all the time. Because if you don't care about money and you're trading, it might cause you to risk too much money, because you think, oh, it's just money, you know, I don't really care, because you never had to worry about it. So your childhood and your relationship with money in your childhood really determines your personal flaws in trading, I would say. And you need to go really in depth with yourself and be honest with yourself, and you know, just see what is wrong with me, you know, what problems do I have as a person, what personal flaws do I have in trading, because most trading mistakes are from a personal problem. They are coming from personal flaws, you know. Trading mistakes do not come, at least most of the times, not from like not having a strategy. Obviously this is the biggest thing, but if you have a working strategy and yet you still make mistakes as a trader, it's most likely because of your relationship with money. And if you are not being honest with yourself and analyze yourself on what that relationship was like and is today, you will always repeat these mistakes, you know. So in order to fix those mistakes, you need to be, well, basically heal your relationship with your money, or rather make rules to avoid those mistakes. But in the first place, you have to recognize those mistakes, right? There's other things as well. For example, I wrote down when do I get angry or irritated. I wrote this down because whenever at least I've noticed this for myself. For example, if I had a bad day at work, I don't know, like my boss yelled at me, or my colleagues didn't behave properly, or whatsoever, I usually do not trade particularly well. I do make more mistakes when I had a bad day, you know. So recognizing this kind of behavior and this relationship helps you to avoid these kinds of mistakes, you know. So I have, for example, a rule that prevents me from trading whenever I have a shitty day. So this means, for example, if I have a fight with my girlfriend, I'll just say, it doesn't happen a lot, but it can happen, right? And not trading on these kinds of trades will help you not blowing up your account. So I have a rule for this now. If I'm gonna stick with that rule, that is another question, but just having this kind of rule written down for your trading rules helps you a lot. Another thing, for example, is that for me personally, I do not trade when I'm sleepy. Because I make so many mistakes when I'm sleepy, or when I haven't slept that well. I usually make mistakes when I trade. maybe I get too greedy or I get too fearful, you know. So whenever I had a bad day of sleep, it amplifies my personal flaws, I would say. Then, for example, I have written down the question: when do I revenge trade the most? This kind of leads. This is basically aligning with the other question: when do I get irritated? So whenever you had a bad day, or like I've noticed for myself that I revenge trade a lot when I've missed moves. You know, for example, this move the last couple of days. I am positioned spot wise, but I wasn't positioned leverage wise, and it was kind of getting to me. You know, that was because I was predicting this move for so many times, for such a long time now, but I didn't execute on it because I had things going on in my real life that I had to attend to. You know, and this made me so annoyed. This annoyed me so much. Because in my head, I was thinking, okay, I could have made this and this much money, you know, and this is what I was only thinking about. And in my past, I would have revenge traded it, you know, like I would have definitely leveraged long this with way too much risk, you know. So even though I didn't lose money, I still felt the need to revenge trade. In the market because I felt like the market owed me money, you know, because the market moved when I didn't have the time to look at the market. And this kind of feeling can get you to revenge trade a lot. Which is also why I have this rule written down that whenever this kind of things happen, I don't even open the charts. Like I simply can't, because I know once I open the charts, you know, I might revenge trade. And revenge trading is probably the worst feeling you can have, because revenge trading will basically blow up your account eventually, you know. This goes also for when do I risk too much on a trade. So for me, I've noticed that I always risk too much money on a trade whenever I see other people making tons of money. You know, again, for example, this kind of move, people are posting 1 million in profit on Twitter, you know, and whenever you see this kind of money profit being posted, you feel like revenge trading, but you also feel like risking too much, you know. And to avoid this kind of feeling, you simply have to put your rule in and say, okay, whenever I feel like this, put the phone away, you know. Don't even look at the charts. This is the only thing that you can do to really avoid this kind of behavior. Are you a full-time trader? No, I'm not. For me personally, I would only ever go full-time trading if I have enough capital to basically cover everything. So for me, in my country, I would need about 250k in trading capital. In my opinion, to cover everything, to live a nice normal life. And I would also need at least 50k saved up to cover all expenses. If I don't have that kind of money, I wouldn't even consider becoming a full-time trader, you know. What kind of issues do you have, Sami? We can talk about it if you want to. That's why I wanted to host the stream, you know. Do you have the pattern to revenge trade, or what is your issue? Do you just get too hyped up or too greedy? I can say that I oftentimes get too greedy, to be honest. This is one major issue for me. Which is why I have my strategy like it is, you know, because the strategy basically avoids me being too greedy, and it forces me to be patient, you know. And whenever I'm not being patient, I always lose money. Basically, I'm finally trading well, but I'm having some family issues, a lot of property drama. My dad is old, he needs to sign off the ancestral wealth to me, and my brother wants to take everything. When the family drama peaks, I cannot focus on trading. Yeah, I didn't have a similar issue, but I know how it's like to have family issues, you know. For example, my dad is really sick. Like he could die any day, you know. And sometimes my mom calls me and tells me, "Yo, your dad is not feeling good, you know. It might be time to say goodbye." And whenever this kind of feeling hits me, I always make bad trades. Like I always make bad trades. In the end, trading is a almost 100% emotional thing, even though we do have strategies for it, etc. But the execution is what matters, and execution is based on emotions, right? So the advice that I can give you is I would actually not trade until this thing is resolved, you know. Even though you might miss out on moves, it might save you more money instead of trading in this kind of feeling and emotion, you know, because otherwise you might be risking too much because you're mad or whatever, or you're feeling sad. So whenever you feel this way, you really need to don't trade at all. And if you are struggling to not trade, tell a trusted person. I don't know if you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, like a partner or a friend. I would just say to this person, "Hey, I have trouble not to trade whenever I feel like this. Can you remind me to not trade when you know that I feel like this, you know?" This is what I told my girlfriend. I told her whenever I'm having a bad day, or when I'm feeling shitty, or when I'm sleeping, I'm sleepy, or I didn't work out this day, you know. I told her just tell me, remind me to not trade, because otherwise without her I probably would trade, you know. Even though I have these kind of rules in place, it's still really tempting to still put in a trade, you know. Also, I cannot trade when there's noise and shit. I live close to a noisy protest. Yeah, I feel it. I have the privilege to not live in a city, because I can't live in a city anymore. I used to live in a city especially when I was studying in the university, you know. But it's just too much noise. It's too. I just can't concentrate when I live in a city. I don't know, and I really need to be calm. You know, I need to be in Zen mode to be able to trade. So even though I didn't change my environment just because of trading, it's one major reason for this, you know. I think you need peace and calm in your life, in your environment, to be able to trade properly. At least for me. Some people can, they can trade however they are feeling. But I'm not one of those kind of persons. I am an emotional person, you know. I know it and I recognize it. And if you do recognize it as well, just make sure that you have things or kind of rules enabled so that you're not repeating the same mistakes again, you know. If that makes sense. Does that make sense to you, Dr. Zombie? But that definitely sucks with your family situation. Personally, I don't have to worry about that because my parents don't own anything, so I'm not getting anything regardless if they live or die, you know. Makes sense, bro. I'm also now working well. I mean, I recognize I'm not I feel mentally, so I don't trade that I also don't trade well. Yeah, just like the only thing you have to do is to just recognize your personal flaws, you know. And once you do that, just tell a trusted person your flaws, and so that person keeps you accountable, you know. And I think as long as you have that, I think that's all you need. I know a lot of crypto bros tell, you know, who don't have a relationship with a partner or something because it it makes you trade worse because another person in your life takes so much time away. But I actually think it's quite the opposite. I do think another person in your life can really help you improve on, well, everything. Can you guys see that message from SB as well? Since when does SB speak German? What the fuck? Anyways, so these were the kind of questions I wanted to talk about. I'm probably gonna repeat the same thing maybe tomorrow or on Wednesday when there's more people on it, because I do think it's an important topic, you know. So I want to have more people in it and talk about it again. But in general, I wanted to talk about Bitcoin as well, Ethereum as well, for chart analysis. It has been quite slow yesterday when it comes to price action and volatility. I mean, it's normal, right? Especially after, like, if you look at the volatility chart, volatility peaked at 100 percentile. So volatility cannot go up even more, you know. This is the highest volatility can go. It cannot go higher than 100 percentile. So it made so much sense that price action was basically calming down a bit and pulling back. It pulled back quite a bit, to be honest, from 80k towards 75k. It's almost a 5% pullback, which is not too bad, you know. Now the question is, where does Bitcoin go from here? I do think that if Bitcoin manages to close above this high right here, and you can see there's a high right here, high right here, high right here, and high right here, right? So this is actually pretty strong lower time frame resistance. And if Bitcoin manages to close above these highs, maybe we test the 1 hour Woodsbot level, we test the level again. I do think Bitcoin is probably gonna target these highs, at least these highs, but most likely it's gonna retest these highs, take some liquidity. I don't know if it's gonna be pushing more afterwards. I have my doubts, because if you look at the 4 hour momentum, no, it's been up so much. Like it was at 94, which is kind of crazy. So I don't know what happens afterwards. If it's gonna be a bearish retest, you know, just a SFP liquidity sweep, and then comes back down. It makes sense to me. But yeah, it first obviously needs to close above this Woodsbot level right here. But I can always also see a word where it's just gonna reject again and consolidate for some time into the weekly close, and we're gonna have volatility on Monday again. But yeah, this is my plan. So my plan is to wait for an actual candle closure above this 1 hour level to potentially target these highs and these highs. If it's gonna reject here and close below this level, I will be looking for lower into this 74k area, you know. I think this makes the most sense for Bitcoin. What is your profitability percentile in a month? So my win rate is around 80%. Obviously it can vary. So sometimes I have like 75%. Sometimes I do have, but most of the times I do have 80%. In a bad month, the lowest win rate I had this year was 70%. But all the other months were pretty much around 75 towards 80% win rate. But I must say that I don't take a lot of trades, you know. When it comes down to it, I usually only take like maybe around like maybe 5 to 10 trades. Like the last couple of months, there wasn't really a lot of trades for me to make. But usually I take around 5 to 10 trades a month, which usually yields around 5% capital increase, like portfolio increase, you know. But yeah, that is my win rate. Since when can you speak German, SV? bist gut genug. That song is so addictive in some way. I don't know why that song is so addictive, but it's gone super viral. Did I miss a lot? You missed something. I talked about the psychological aspects of trading. I want to repeat that session on Monday potentially, or Wednesday, depending on how many people show up, because I do think the psychological aspect is one of the most important aspects in trading. Yo, Grand Possible is here as well. Good to see you. I talked in the beginning. I talked about the relationship with money. What is your relationship with money? How did you grow up with money? Did you have a lot of money growing up as a child? Were you poor? Were you worrying about money? Did you struggle having food on the table? Because all of this affects your relationship with money in your adulthood. And it's really important to be talking about the relationship with money, to be able to identify the personal flaws that you have in trading, and then counteract these flaws and make up rules for them, so you don't repeat the same mistakes every time you enter a trade, right? So this is what I was talking about in the beginning. I was talking with Dr. Zombie a bit for it. Yeah, I'm also looking at trades. I was talking about Bitcoin just now. I do think this 1 hour Woodsbot level is the most important decider when it comes to low term from price action. Basically, if Bitcoin manages to close another 1 hour candle above these candle closures and above these highs, I do think Bitcoin will likely go towards 79.5k, maybe towards 80k, maybe even 82k. But if it's going to reject it here, I do think Bitcoin is probably going to go towards 74, 72k. So for me, Bitcoin is pretty simple. It's just basic range trading. Not that hard. Yeah, I think 73k is a nice area. Like anywhere between, like anywhere between these two confluence zones, I do think is a good buying opportunity. And it should hold, If it doesn't hold here, so if Bitcoin doesn't hold these confluence zones, I mean, it's not looking the best, I would say, because after all, this is a potential lower high on Bitcoin, right? Like, it's still following the trend of lower highs and lower lows. So you want to see Bitcoin holding aggressively, because otherwise it will just follow the market structure towards the downside again. Other than that, I wanted to have a look at hype. Not hype. I always say hype too, even though it's pump. Yeah, I wanted to talk about pump, because I do think pump is probably ready for a swing short soon. So I've pointed this out in chart ideas earlier, that I want to target this week the supply zone, in combination with the 0.618 Fibonacci number. I do think this is a great swing short opportunity on pump. I'm not saying that pump is completely topped for the full cycle or anything, you know. But I do think this is a nice, really nice swing opportunity. You have a clean invalidation, you know, above the supply block, 12%, and you have a nice target of like almost 30%, you know. So for me, this would be a nice swing short opportunity. Let's see if we get that. Might top out before that, but I'm hoping it has one more push up, you know. Takes this liquidity maybe into this weekly supply block, and then goes back down, you know. This would be my ideal setup for a pump short. I'm not really looking to long anything, to be honest, right now. I don't think it makes sense to long any altcoins, because the risk to reward ratio is just not good, you know. Like the risk to reward ratio is just too fucked up to be looking for altcoin longs, in my opinion. However, I am looking for longs on. If you are in hype, I think if you're looking for longs, you should probably stick to the majors, because I do think that the altcoins can have another nasty dump, you know, like we had right here. You know, where it's basically dumped 20%, and if you don't have a stop loss set up, you can easily get liquidated. So if you long altcoins, make sure to manage your risk. You know, set up your stop loss. Don't risk too much on altcoins. Maybe only risk 1% per trade on altcoins at the moment, like until we get a more clear picture, you know. Because again, Bitcoin is under macro resistance, you know. It's and whenever Bitcoin rejects, altcoins are gonna reject as well. Like the only coin that is actually bullish on the higher time frame or becoming bullish is Ethereum, if it manages to close the weekly above these highs, right? There's still 7 hours to go. But yeah, Ethereum is probably one of the only coins that are higher time frame bullish with hype as well. Do you guys have any questions? I think pump 0.04, good area of interest to swing. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I like this level right here. On the 5-day. So almost your level, like 0.041. Like in this kind of area, you know, in this command block. Obviously, if it's far away, you know, like it would need pump fund to dump 30%, but I think it's possible. People are probably super over leveraged right now, so I do think it can probably dump pretty hard, like any altcoins. Yeah, I do think this is a nice area for longs. But I don't know, like, do you guys also have this feeling that people might get too overly bullish? You know, like if I just look at price action, nothing's really changed. You know, like yes, we broke out of a long consolidation, but it wasn't that long, you know. Like we've had worse consolidations. You know, for example, this one, where it consolidated for 200 days. like I get why, like if I just look at it objectively, it's still in a bearish territory. Like it's not bullish, you know? Like it's not bullish at all. Like the only thing that would be bullish is if price action, like the monthly candle, closes above these highs, you know. If Bitcoin closes the monthly above these highs, like above 77k, yeah, then I do think the bottom is in, and I do think price action is gonna be really bullish for the next months, right? But Bitcoin is still under a macro resistance. It's still in lower high territory, right? So I don't want to get overly bullish on everything. And I've seen people even in this Discord like using so many, like risking so much money, you know. But it doesn't make sense to me to risk that much money right now. Even if you look at Total Free, which is basically every coin except Bitcoin and Ethereum. Like look at where Total Free is, you know. It's Total Free is under resistance. Total Free hasn't closed anything above anything of significance, you know. Like Total Free just through the size, you know, and it's looking like it wants to close below again, you know. This would be a, like just from a technical standpoint, this would be bearish, right? So for me to become macro bullish would, for me to be able to see a lower high, a higher low, excuse me. And until that doesn't happen, like, I don't know why people are freaking out so much. Yes, we've pumped, you know, but it's not like we haven't seen this before. Like the only coin that is actually becoming bullish is Ethereum. Ethereum and Hype. Any other coins are still on a macro basis are bearish, right? So don't get, you know, don't risk too much. Don't overexpose yourself. Yes, we've had some nice moves to the upside. But nothing's really changed yet. But there is definitely high potential if this month closes above 77k, then this will be a confirmation that the market structure is actually becoming bullish again on a macro scale. But until that doesn't happen, I would definitely say don't overexpose yourself too much. All right, it's almost been 50 minutes and I have things to do, so I think I would call it a day here. Do you guys have any last questions before I hop off? Yo, what's up, Jonas? Alright, seems like everyone is good. I'm gonna hit up a workout, get the muscle gains. But yeah, I do have to work out more. Like, I'm not fat or anything, you know, but like I can feel that I'm not moving enough. I'm sitting too much, you know. So I'm hitting a nice workout, getting those gains, you know, you have to get the gains in with your body, but also with your capital. So I'm trying to do both. Alright guys, see you guys later. If you guys have any questions, hit me up in chart ideas or platinum chat. I'm always here whenever you need me. And I see you guys tomorrow. Bye bye.